Welcome to Thursday morning. My name is Beth. I'm glad you're here today. Today I'd like to look at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which talks about trust. Now, many of you already probably know this verse because you memorized it when you were a child, and it's really got some wonderful things to say. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. So let's look a little bit at these words and about the phrases. The word trust. When you think of the word trust, what do you think of? We say the word trust maybe in everyday conversation. I trust that you're going to do this for me, or I trust my bank. I trust that something is going to happen and it's going to be for my good. The dictionary defines the word trust as a firm belief in the reliability, character, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So when you think about the word trust, you're thinking of somebody's character. Doesn't that come to mind? Think, well, I trust this person to, care for me or to follow through on something they've said to me because I know who they are. I know that I can rely on them. Their ability and their strength is there for me. So some synonyms of trust would be confidence, assurance, certainty, reliance, conviction, and faith. Those are all pretty intense words, aren't they? So when you think about people that you know, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or a parent, maybe a boss, a coworker, maybe a best friend, and you try to apply those traits to those people that you know, hopefully the people that you apply these to are going to follow through with them. But a lot of times we all fail because we're sinners. So somebody that you might put your trust in, whether it's a family member or a boss, may fail you. And then we start getting upset and we think, well, they weren't very good friends to begin with. But no, because we are sinners, we have to give people some slack. The first 8 words of the passage, trust in the Lord with all your heart. So if we're using the word trust with those definitions that we looked at, we're putting the traits and the character and the reliability into a person, the Lord. Certainly He's worthy of our trust, isn't He? And notice that it says trust in the Lord. It doesn't say trust in your neighbors or trust in the government or trust in your money or trust in your family. It says trust in the Lord because the Lord is the only one that has all of these character traits that we just read about, who will not fail us. He's proven Himself over and over again. And then it says with all of your heart. That would be all of your being, your total being, that you're putting your faith into that person or that situation. This proverb was written by Solomon, and it was to his son. And so besides being an exhortation to his son, it's also an invitation from the writer, Solomon, to his son. Don't forget these things, going back into the first part of chapter 3. He says, don't forget the things that I've taught you. We need to remember the things that we have been taught as we've grown up. And it says, don't forget to be truthful and kind. Hold to the virtues tightly. That, again, implies don't let them slip through your fingers. Remember them and lean on them. Trust involves resting securely in God's loving, protective care. And that is very comforting. When we can trust someone enough, we can kind of let go of being in charge of it. And that's really important to remember because with God, He has proven Himself over and over again to us. We know that we can trust Him, especially when we've been believers for many, many years. We've seen God work in the past. We know He will follow through. And so therefore we can then have that assurance and that trust in him that we can't have in anybody else. And then the next phrase is lean not unto your own understanding. Why would that be, do you think? I mean, we may say, well, you know what? I've got a college degree. I can make my own decisions. I've done pretty well. Or I'm a CEO of a business. Or I've raised a family and we've done pretty well. But you know what? We make decisions based on maybe inadequate faith or inadequate facts. We base a lot of decisions on emotions. We may not realize it at the time, but emotions play a big part in our decision making. And we don't see what the outcome is going to be of our decision today, maybe 5 years down the road. We can't see what that's going to be because we're not God. And we also know from Jeremiah 17:9 tells us that the heart is deceitful above all else and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So our hearts, we may think we're in the right place, but we're not. And we have to really rely on trusting in Jesus to help us get through. So we have to remember, don't rely on your own wisdom because it will fail. Because God knows the beginning from the end. He loves us unconditionally. He knows everything we're going through at every moment and what we're going to go through in the future. He knows the best way to handle every situation that we have so that we get the best possible outcome. Jeremiah 29:11 also says, I know the plans that I have for you, plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. So here we keep getting these reassurances from Jesus and from God throughout all of Scripture. I know the way to heaven. I know the way home. So just follow me. Trust in me. I've shown you in the past. I died for you, so I have the answer. The next phrase says, in all your ways acknowledge him. When you acknowledge God, what you're saying is that you know him personally and you're in fellowship with him. Because if you say, well, I can do this on my own. I don't need God. I can make my own decisions. It's not that hard of a thing to do for this particular circumstance. But by acknowledging him, we are saying, Lord, you are the King of the universe. You are the King in my life. I'm going to do what you say. Please direct me in this. Give me wisdom. God promises in James to give us wisdom to do what we need to do. And I want to read Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24. It says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test my thoughts. Point out anything you find in me that makes you sad, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. So that's another thing. We are in fellowship with him. We know him personally. And so we are acknowledging that he is an important part of our life. And the last phrase is, and he shall direct your path. So this is our promise. If we have trusted in him, we are not leaning on our own understanding. We're acknowledging him. Our promise is that he will direct our path. So he gives us these wonderful verses with a promise at the end. And so sometimes if you've ever compared, when you look around us in the world today, and in the Bible actually talks about this too, they compare the path of the wicked and the righteous. The path of the wicked is crooked morally because people are living corruptly, and is crooked practically because people face difficulties of their own making. And so the path of the righteous is straighter in both senses because people that are morally right are living in a way that honors God. And practically because you're facing less obstacles to a successful, joyful life. So it's very obvious to see, just like in Psalm 1, it talks about the wicked and the righteous, the way of living. And I think that's really an important thing to look at, because we can look around us in the world today and we can see very obviously the people who don't know Christ and people that do. Here's another observation that this is, again, an observation. People that are trusting God tend to be more content, more forgiving, kinder, more generous, and more loving. People that don't want to trust God or that choose not to trust God tend to be more anxious, more cynical, more bitter, more mean, and more unhappy. I think, again, we can look around us in the world today and see that that is very true. Because when you hang out with somebody long enough, you're going to see what they're made of. You're going to see what they believe in, who they trust, what they're, who they're trusting in. And in closing, one of the pictures that I really love is a painting of a painting of a young man in a boat, at the helm of the boat, trying to keep the boat afloat in a horrible, horrible storm. And you can see the waves up around the boat. And behind this man is standing Jesus with his one hand on his shoulder and the other hand pointing straight ahead. And I think that that is such a wonderful picture that we can keep in our minds, because we're like that man trying to steer the boat, and God is right behind us, pointing the way. Isaiah 30:21 says, "And if you leave God's paths and go astray, you will hear a voice behind you say, 'No, this is the way, walk here.'" So we know we have that confidence, that trust in Jesus, that he will guide us and point us in the right direction. All of these verses just give us confidence and hope that no matter what happens to us, we need to run to God instead of away from him.
Simply trusting every day, trusting through a stormy way, even when my faith is small, trusting Jesus, that is all. Brightly does his Spirit shine into this poor heart of mine. While he leads, I cannot fall, trusting Jesus, that is all. Simply trusting, hear him call, simply trusting Jesus, that is all. Singing if my way is clear, praying if the path be drear, if in danger for him call, trusting Jesus, that is all. Trusting him while life shall last, trusting him till earth be past, till within the jasper wall, trusting Jesus, that is all. Simply trusting, hear him call, simply trusting Jesus, that is all. Simply trusting